it's not a new idea, but it is a particular way of considering urban design as an assemblage of places rather than objects. So placemaking is to distinguish from object making or space making, in that it's the jargon for creating something that in itself it's one thing, but once it's in its context, it behaves differently and is used differently, and it enters our consciousness as well as our physical reality of a wall, you encounter, with a store in it or a door or whatever on the street. It also comes from the consciousness of a building. For the most part, most buildings in the city are private. The only part that is experienced is the way they meet the public realm. So turning that into a place is a conscious act rather than just the space where a building lands. If you think of it as a place where people walk, a place where there is landscape, a place where people enter, a place where people see what's going on in that building, then all of a sudden, well, there I used the word place when I said that, right? So it's not a space where, it is a place. Early on, some of the things that we brought to the table were the elements that we think make good places. And that was a cafe, a social hub. But a cafe would also be an amenity for the people working upstairs. So we started introducing elements, programmatic elements, in support of both what the primary use of the building, like coffee, food, restaurant stuff, and good for the street, so that the building's presence there would bring amenities to public life. An urban building at the ground floor should have at minimum, its own purpose evident, so that people know what that building is. So that means no mirrored glass. That means if there's any part of the function of that ground floor that can be made public, at minimum visible, it should be. Permeability, that is, give every opportunity to permeate where that building meets the ground, either visually or physically. That's why you put public functions in, commercial, business functions, and down the scale to offices where you need an appointment to walk in, right? Uniqueness and local identity is really important. So instead of making the spaces available to national or international chain stores and businesses, they consciously went to local purveyors of the cafe, Zambri's restaurant, Pig. Those were all independent, the cook culture. Every one of those merchants were people that were identified in the community as being energetic, forward-thinking, good business people that needed an opportunity to be in a different location or a better location or a second location. And they were approached and said, and the international chains like Starbucks and 7-Eleven and all these people that did come knocking, they were told, no, sorry, we're going to go with the local. we were very conscious of creating an interior street, essentially with the qualities of a public square that was in a private building. We were worried, however, and the owners were quite concerned that if no one ever came to it, it would be kind of a very large empty office lobby. So there was a concerted effort to put uses on it and a level of transparency from the street so it would feel like a place one could walk through. So that was one thing. We put functions inside that would attract people to use, like the cafes, and we made sure that all the ground floor tenants opened into it as well as onto the street. The wood discs that are there were his design as well, and they are a three-dimensionalization. They are a component of the floor mosaic compositionally. The art is the seating, so that was that idea. Again, that came out of conversations, and the seating itself, those benches we designed and had them made, and the big tables came about to encourage people to go out from the restaurants and cafes and occupy the space. Again, in the spirit of looking for ways to animate the space, we said, okay, how can we expose the elevators? Elevator shafts are usually the structural components of concrete buildings. Here, we didn't want them used that way, so how light could we make them? And said, well, first thing you can do is make them out of steel, not a concrete shaft. We questioned things that ended up being quite flexible. All the things that people seemed to like about this building were the result of questioning convention and just pushing the design into the realm of the technology.